I rediscovered Pokemon Conquest recently, and it is safe to say I am hooked again. It's a spin-off Pokemon game, a grid-based, turn-based tactical strategy game like Final Fantasy Tactics, or more loosely Fire Emblem, or more recently the Switch's Triangle Strategy. It's a crossover between Pokemon and a Japanese series called Nobunaga's Ambition, which I know nothing about, but I'm just saying. Pokemon Conquest came out in 2012, over 10 years ago now, on the Nintendo DS. It has an overall score of 80 on Metacritic, which puts it tied for the 22nd highest rated Pokemon game out of 75 total scored entries, but I'm going to take that with a grain of salt since Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness is sitting at a 64 in the bottom 20, and that's actually blasphemous. They gave XD the same score they gave Pokemon Quest, that free Minecraft-looking thing on the Switch everyone played for 30 minutes and never touched again, and Pokemon Cafe Mix, which barely qualifies as a game. If you still play Pokemon Quest, let me know in the comments so I can prove you don't actually exist and are just a bot trying to blend in. Anyway, Pokemon Conquest. This is unironically my most played Pokemon game ever. I have over 1,000 hours in the original DS version, and I recently allegedly downloaded a ROM of it allegedly, and have been playing that for like 6 hours a day allegedly. In this game, you conquer kingdoms of different Pokemon types by sending warriors and their Pokemon into battle. The Pokemon do the fighting and the tactical turn-based combat I mentioned before, but the warriors have warrior abilities they can use once per battle to confer benefits upon themselves and their allies. Each Pokemon can use a grand total of one move ever, which is decided by what Pokemon it is. Every Charmander be Emberin and every Piplup be Bubbling. When they evolve, their move changes. Charmander uses Ember, but Charmeleon uses Fire Fang, and Charizard uses Flamethrower. Each move has different range, power, and accuracy. A Headbutt can only hit the Pokemon right in front of it, but a Fire Blast can knock out a whole team if they're lined up just right. After battles, your link percentage goes up, which determines your overall strength, and the maximum link rating is determined by how compatible the warrior and the Pokemon are together. This is where a lot of the satisfaction in this game comes in. There are 199 Pokemon in Conquest, from Gens 1 through 5, and there are 200 total warriors, and their more unique and important counterparts, warlords. Every warrior and warlord has an affinity for certain types of Pokemon, and beyond that, each of them has one individual Pokemon that is considered their perfect link. Warriors show up with Pokemon they have no business being partnered with given their affinities. Like a dude will come in like, "Thanks for letting me join your army," rocking a Zubat when his preferred type is fire. As a result, the maximum link he can achieve is low, so his strength is going to max out at a very short ceiling. Some of the warrior profiles are like old people too. It's like, dude, you're 85 years old, your perfect link is a Joltik, but you're running around with a Sandile? You weren't even close. Imagine just now finding your perfect link when you're like a year away from retiring. Registering all warriors and Pokemon in the gallery and finding all their perfect links is like this game's version of completing the Pokedex, albeit much harder and slower, but also more satisfying. Getting a perfect link is like putting a square-shaped key into a square-shaped lock. You just see it slide right in so smooth, like, yes. It's like being a matchmaker who set up two with their friends and they ended up getting married. But okay, we've established the grindy completionist part of the game, but how long is Pokemon Conquest regularly? Oh, it's as long as you want, man. You start with the main campaign and main story. Your avatar character must unite the region of Ransei by conquering all 17 kingdoms before the ambitious Nobunaga does the same. The overworld plays out as a series of turns. Each kingdom takes their own turn, kind of like a Sid Meier's Civilization game, but less dynamic. Choosing to train their Pokemon in wild locations, hunting for warriors to recruit, mining for gold to spend upgrading locations or buying items from shops, or invading neighboring kingdoms. The first campaign is very strict and rigid. It's not until you finish it and unlock the loads of side stories and post-game stories that the game really takes the restrictions off and lets you go buck wild. I'd definitely save the min-maxing for later campaigns and just bum rush the first one, which will probably take about 8 to 10 hours if you're not in a hurry. That's one campaign. But guess what? After you beat the first campaign, there's like 20 more of them waiting to be sequentially unlocked, and like half of those are equally as long as the main campaign, and all your warrior and Pokemon progress carries over, minus your link percentages. That means if you got a perfect link Trico, for instance, for some rando warrior during the last campaign, and raised it all the way to a Sceptile, in the next campaign the link rating will reset, but that warrior, if you recruit him again, will still have that perfect link Sceptile right out of the gate. There's just something a little bit devastating about recruiting an early game Gyarados and just watching it fly around and one-shot 3 Pokemon at a time with its Aqua Tail. In addition to Pokemon evolving, Warlords can permanently transform as well if certain conditions are met, and they'll keep those transformations and the OP abilities that come with them for every subsequent campaign too, but only when you're using them, which is kinda lame. I wish that progress carried over if the enemy uses them too, it would make things more challenging. Speaking of challenging, that's something this game lacks. It's super easy. In post-game stories, enemies won't invade your kingdoms until 6 overworld months, or turns, have passed, which means you can spend the first 6 turns running a train on them and getting too strong for them to ever do anything. Occasionally, if you outpace them too hard, there'll be a little event where the game is like, oh man, this dude's army's getting so strong, let's immediately arbitrarily double our own strength real quick. And then they will, but it's usually still not enough to pose a real threat. The only way to make the game harder for yourself is to just sit in your kingdom and waste turns until the enemy decides they're finally ready to play. So that's a basic overview of Pokemon Conquest, but then why the talk of a sequel 10 years later? In no official context, by the way. I'm sure there hasn't even been the slightest rumbling that they would ever even think of doing this. But damn it, I want Pokemon Conquest 2! A remake would also be amazing, but a sequel with more new stories would be better content. But hey, if they want to just do a remake, I won't stop them. Which begs the question, what would we want out of a sequel? What would make a sequel worth the idea of existence? How about I list some stuff out for you? Number 1, Modern Gen. Easiest no-brainer thing ever, bring it to the Modern Gen, which is Gen 9 now coming up. Let me get some Sprigatito action, let me get some Rockruff action, some Litleo action, get some reps from Generations 6 through 9 to show their faces and forget all but one of their moves. This also means there would need to be an 18th kingdom for the Fairy type and new Warlords to run it. I don't need them to add too many new Pokemon, just a decent amount. Getting perfect links is a struggle as is. Imagine if they put 896 Pokemon in there plus Gen 9 and Legends Arceus and a comparable amount of new warriors to match it. Like, yeah, I ain't doing all that. Number 2, more move freedom. Being able to just use one move works. It solidifies the Pokemon as a certain type of threat, makes it a constant. I don't mind only being able to use one move on the battlefield, but let me pick from a selection of moves before the battle begins, cause some moves are abject trash and the Pokemon you've stuck with them don't deserve it. Case in point, Luxray. Shinx starts out with Spark. Basic move, just hits the square in front of it, no biggie, it's a first stage move for a first stage Pokemon. Then Luxio happens, and Luxio gets Discharge. Discharge hits every square around the Pokemon in a 1-tile radius, which is amazing. Luxio can walk in the middle of a group and light them all up at once. He's a go-getter. Then Luxray happens. Luxray gets Thunder, which sounds cool, but it's a low accuracy move that only hits one square and it's 3 spaces away from where Luxray is standing. That means Luxray can get body blocked and be unable to hit anybody, or pushed against a wall and have to waste turns putting distance between it and the opponent. Luxio is better than Luxray, straight up, and it's sad. Another horrendous example is Gyro Ball, which might actually be the worst move in the game outside of Splash, because it actually gets weaker the stronger you are compared to your opponent. Forretress uses this move, and I've come up against Pokemon who were half my strength, and I would literally do 1 damage to them. So it would be cool if instead of Gyro Ball, I could have Forretress use Iron Head or Flash Cannon or something. Another aspect of move freedom should be the ability for dual-type Pokemon to get a move of each type. In Conquest, they don't. Swaddle, a bug grass type, can only use Bug Bite. Then it evolves into Swadloon and switches move types to Razor Leaf, which can be jarring, especially if you need moves of a certain type for the next kingdom you're coming up against. And then when it evolves into Leavanny, it goes back to a Bug-type move with X-Scissor. But hey, maybe when it's a Swadloon, I still want it to have a Bug-type move, you know? Or maybe I want Leavanny to have Razor Leaf a few times. Treat dual types like dual types. Number 3, better AI. With time, you will learn every AI exploitation there is to learn in this game, and there's a few. Some kingdoms have you capture and hold banners, and the AI will prioritize them no matter what, even ignoring easy, unpunishable kills in favor of just having a Pokemon camp out on top of a banner and wait to be assaulted from all sides. In regular battles, they usually just move towards you as fast as possible with little regard for your attack range, which I don't mind because it's better than them endlessly camping and running out the turn limit, which they could easily do because if you're invading and they're defending the kingdom and the turns run out, it means they win. So it's cool that they don't. Wild Pokemon sometimes don't know what the hell's happening and will act like they're confused, but Warrior Pokemon are more direct with their confrontations. Mostly, I want the AI to change in the overworld, so they actually pose a threat and invade you when they should. You can leave an empty, undefended kingdom next to an enemy, it'll take them 3 months to notice it. I want them to be competitive. Number 4, fix annoyances. There's some quality of life things that would go a long way to alleviating some gripes I have with the day-to-day of Pokemon Conquest. Firstly, warriors and Pokemon you recruit don't get added to the gallery and saved as permanent progression until you use them in a battle. That's dumb. If you conquer a kingdom, you might recruit 6 different warriors at the same time, and none of them get registered unless you waste time putting them in a battle against wild Pokemon or something, even if you know you have no intention of actually using them. The same is true for Pokemon, even evolutions. You've been using this Pichu all campaign, and right near the end it finally evolves into Pikachu. Well, if you finish the campaign before you use that newly evolved Pikachu in a battle, next campaign it'll just be a Pichu again because it didn't save. I've lost 2 Warlord transformations this way too. I evolved Hanbei and Kanbei, but they weren't part of my main squad, so afterwards I just had the main squad invade the final kingdom and end it. Come to find out in the next campaign when I recruited them again, the transformations disappeared and I lost like 2 hours of grinding. Everything should just save as soon as you get it, period. If I get a perfect link, save it. Don't make me use it in a battle first. I might be trying to get like 30 of them in a single campaign. I'm busy. I shouldn't have to think about whether or not I've done the extra unnecessary legwork to make sure the progress I deserve has been saved. Another nice thing would be to just increase the game speed or have a fast forward toggle, because there are actions in this game that take forever. Anyone who's played this, tell me you don't bang your head against the wall every time you fight in the Spectra Kingdom, and after every turn you have to wait for each individual Miss Driva statue to wander aimlessly around the map. Sometimes 10 of them in a row will take a pointless turn and slow everything down. It's like, oh my god, let me skip this absolute nonsense. I sincerely believe every game in existence should have a fast forward toggle. Install it on the damn controllers, map it to all the keyboards, so things that should be skipped for convenience can be skipped for convenience, and grinding can become a non-issue in any game you can think of where grinding is otherwise an issue. I would honestly play this entire game at ×2 speed and have a ball. Number 5, multiplayer? This one is a reach, because it involves questions I don't have answers to. Like how you would have battles in real time between certain kingdoms while players controlling other kingdoms that aren't battling that month just sit there for 20 minutes and wait for you. I do have a fantasy in my head though where they do a little blending of the tactics genre with the 4X genre. Like if this game took some cues from Sid Meier's Civilization, I think it could expand into a phenomenal experience, but the question is exactly how. Maybe instead of battles being a closed-off affair, they take place on the field over the course of several overworld turns, like in Civ, when countries declare war on each other, and everyone does all their other stuff during their turn at the same time that they're moving their units around and having an ongoing battle. Maybe every kingdom exists on a big map with a grid, and your units patrol borders and explore other kingdoms, form alliances, trade Pokemon warriors, and eventually invade in battle. That would be my game of the year. Easy, if done correctly. The more I think about it, the more it's an absolutely top-tier idea, and I tweeted Nintendo about it, so hopefully in 4 years we get an announcement. But that's gonna do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Sunburned Albino. Watch every video of mine you can until your turn is over, and I'll see you guys next time.